Welcome to the Influence and Inspire podcast, episode 16. And I'm delighted to say my guest today is Tokunbo Koiki, founder of Tokunbos Kitchen. How you doing, Tokunbo?
I'm very well, thank you, Ryan. How are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good stuff.
So, Tokunbo, just tell me a bit more about Tokunbos Kitchen. Or, in fact, I'll say a bit about Tokunbos Kitchen, and you can tell me if I'm right. So, Tokunbos
Okay.
Kitchen is a pop-up restaurant that deals with and provides West African food, mainly Nigerian. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to get that clear first of all. But if we just go back a bit to before you set up Tokunbo's Kitchen,
Yes.
where you lived and worked in Washington D.C.,
Yes.
and you supported vulnerable and homeless people with the provision of daily meals, case management, and advocacy work.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
And what was it
Yes.
that made you decide that you wanted to work with vulnerable people and the homeless?
So my background is I'm a social worker. Well, was a qualified UK social worker.
Hmm.
So I'd always wanted to be a social worker from when I was in secondary school.
Okay.
And I did my first degree in psychology.
Yeah.
And then from then, I worked in education. I worked with young people in different settings, youth offending, mental health. Did that for a couple of years. Before then, going back to get my master's in social work in 2007.
Hmm.
No, sorry, 2007, September 2007. And once I finished, by the time I got around to doing my master's, I was already feeling that social work possibly might not be the career that I had expected and
Hmm.
was not going to be what I actually did want to do. But because it was a lifelong dream and, it was a free course and, because there was an undershortage of social workers,
Yeah.
so the government had a lot of incentives to
Hmm.
get people to take that degree. So I said, fine. So did it. And then in those period of time, one of my placement was working with substance misuse
Hmm.
um, alcoholics in Westminster, and a lot
Yeah.
of them were predominantly homeless.
Yeah.
So once I graduated from uni in 2009, I then worked in youth offending for a year
Mm.
before then moving back to Nigeria because I also was very quite interested in doing international development.
Okay.
So I lived in Nigeria for 18 months. That was an interesting experience in itself
Yeah.
because even though my family are from Nigeria and I lived in Nigeria from when I was a baby, because
Yeah.
I was born in London. Tokunbo actually means somebody that came from over the seas
Hmm.
because I was born in London, but I lived in Nigeria as a baby till I was 9. But it was a completely different experience living in Nigeria again as an adult.
Yes, I can imagine.
I then decided, yeah, it was actually a cultural shock to the system, to say the least. So I moved back from Nigeria in 2012, end of 2000, and yeah, 2012. And for a while, I was trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my life? Not
Hmm.
really sure I want to do social work. Living in Africa didn't quite pan out the way that I wanted it to be.
Hmm.
So I then came across this opportunity, a fellowship in the United States called
Hmm.
Atlas Core,
Yeah.
which is basically getting professionals from all over the world the opportunity to come and live and work in the United States
Hmm.
for a year.
Yeah.
And I thought, fine, this would be fantastic. I'll get to be Oliver Pope, live in New York, wear
Hmm.
lots of great clothes, and do amazing things, work at the UN.
Yeah.
But then I was headhunted by Miriam's Kitchen, which happened to be a social services organization in Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
And that was how I then got the opportunity to work with the homeless population out there. So, yeah, and, while I was out there, it was a very, interesting experience for me. In some career-wise, it was like, I felt like I took a step back
Hmm.
in the terms of the work I was doing. And it very, very much made me realize that I was definitely no longer interested in doing social work because I just felt that social work was not as effective in
Yeah.
helping people as I wanted to be. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So while you were in Washington, you done advocacy, case management, daily meals, and so
Yes.
what service did you enjoy providing the most?
I actually enjoyed the case management, and
Okay.
because it was a very informal structure. So Miriam's Kitchen is actually based in the basement of a church, and what would happen is we would provide breakfast from
Hmm.
6 to 10, and then we would have like you know the guests could stay for like a couple of hours, and we would do like art therapy with them, or just sit down around the tables and just talk to them and get to know people, and just have very informal kind of case management, but also
Okay.
some structured work. And it was, I had such a mix of characters.
Yeah.
There was no 2 days were ever the same.
Mm-hmm.
And dealing with people who had very highly traumatic experiences, some who wanted to kind of bear it all and like,
Yeah.
tell you about some of what they've, like what they've had to go through in life,
Mm-hmm.
and others who weren't. And, you really had to kind of meet people where they were, but at the same time, try to kind of establish a trusting relationship with them
Yeah.
to be able to kind of deal with their underlying issue of homelessness, because the goal of Miriam's Kitchen was to get them, some kind of accommodation.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was interesting because some people were very, very adamant that they prefer to stay on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you had to work with somebody at that level, I think. But at the same time, when it's winter and, the temperature drops and
Yeah.
you're worried, and, there was some people that had like, really prolific, drug substance misuse.
Yeah.
So again, having to deal with, a guest coming in every day, almost overdosing, but then refusing medical treatment. So yeah, it was quite challenging, but it was also very much like lots of good fun. I had lots of great laughs, and
Yeah.
I had a really great experience there.
No, good to hear. So, Tokunbo, you're also an advocate for children and women's rights.
Yes.
Why are these issues so important to you personally?
Um, I've always been I've always been very interested in the disparity in what girls were told that they could achieve
Mm-hmm.
compared to boys.
Yeah.
It just never made sense to me why, just because one person has, a penis and the other person has a vagina,
Mm-hmm.
society automatically limits that person's ability to become president of the
Yeah.
United States, for example.
Yeah.
I always thought that was nonsensical.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've always been a strong, proud feminist advocating for women's rights, girls' rights.
Mm-hmm.
And also just thinking about, the injustice that girls all over the world face. There are girls who are denied education, who are denied basic sanitary rights,
Yeah.
not able to attend school because the school didn't think to put in, sanitary didn't think
Facilities.
to facilities
Mm.
for when they're on their periods.
Yeah.
So, the fact that they don't even consider that an issue, the fact that girls are automatically expected to do all the housework, even when, they might be the oldest or the youngest in the house, but
Mm-hmm.
they're expected to look after their male siblings. Just always really kind of strongly felt that was wrong.
Yeah.
And then as a mom of a young daughter myself, again, just wanting my child to be able to have all the opportunities that's available to her
Yeah.
and not want her to be restricted because she's a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good reason. Good reason. Okay, Tokunbo. So, how would you sum up Tokunbo's Kitchen?
Tokunbos Kitchen is an opportunity for people from all different cultures to come and experience the homegrown, delicious Nigerian food that I grew up eating.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned earlier, even though I was born in London, my mom took me back to Nigeria as a baby. So I
Mm-hmm.
lived in Nigeria for the first 9 years of my life.
Yeah.
And that experience really shaped my taste bud. Even when I came back to London, I was very much already in love with Nigerian food.
Mm-hmm.
I found I actually struggled to eat a lot of English food. And, when I was in school, I was entitled to free school meals. I would
Yeah.
end up giving out my lunch because it was just like, yeah, fish and chips, I still don't get the fuss. um, and, going home. And then when I go home, very much my mom basically forced me into the kitchen when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I always remember that age because I remember her telling me at that time, you're already 4 years behind. I started cooking when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
So for me, I would go home and I would, make my favorite dish at the time, which was fried plantain and egg.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put like, prawns or sardine or lots of different things in my eggs. And, I'll be eating pounded yam and okra stew. So for me, I grew up eating Nigerian food as a first choice. So even as an adult, when I go out, again, and I'm a fussy eater myself. So I don't, even within the Nigerian food saying I don't eat every dish.
Okay.
But the ones that I do eat, I would cook it to the point where I learned to perfect it. And then when we had family and friends over, my mom would be like, "Oh, have you tasted Tokunbo's okra stew?" And the person would be like, "Oh, no, I haven't." And then I'd have to go into the kitchen and produce this amazing dish for that person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the pressure was always kind of like on to make sure this was like the best one that they've had.
Yeah.
And then as an adult, again, going out, I'm always like, okay, looking for Nigerian food. And, a couple years ago, it was very difficult to see Nigerian or food from West Africa or any part of Africa generally easily accessible
Yeah.
in London. And then when I was living in DC, that was when actually I kind of had my light bulb moment when it came to food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prior to DC, food was something that I felt that I had to do. I didn't kind of give a thought about the processes of how we cook the food that we cooked. I just knew that I could cook. So when I was in DC, I had a group of friends who would come over and I would, entertain them by cooking for them. And I remember just, the feedback that they would give and the way they loved coming around just to like have me cook for them. And I kind of got satisfaction. Like it was a great thing for me to see people enjoying the food that I had created.
Yeah.
And also in DC, they've got this amazing food truck culture.
Yeah.
So in the financial district, every morning you would have all these food trucks from all over the world lined up, and you
Oh,
could
okay.
literally travel through the world, through them, you could literally travel around the world through the food that was accessible. And the one continent that was missing, can you take a wild guess?
Oh no.
Was the
Seriously.
African continent. Like, yeah.
Oh.
Like, I mean, it was just, I think I saw maybe one Moroccan food
Yeah.
truck
Yeah.
the whole time I lived in DC. And I remember always, we had this amazing Ghanaian restaurant that we always used to go and have food. And I always used to say to my friends, why don't African restaurants think about, branching out and, showing people the greatness that is our food
Yeah.
to a more Western culture. So that kind of was like the seed got planted during that time. And then when I came back to London, it was the same thing. I'd go to events, I'd go to festivals, and there would be no Nigerian food. Or even when you did go to like Nigerian or West African festivals, it would be like, oh, you have to come back, the food is not ready.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like literally, like come back in 30 minutes, and you're like, it's a festival. I just want my food now. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
have to come back.
No, that's right.
So then 2 years ago, I went to a festival in Walthamstow in East London. And, the main reason I went was to see Femi Kuti perform.
Yeah.
Femi, who is the son of, the legendary Fela Kuti.
Yeah.
And, it was a free concert. It was a free event. I was really excited. I'd seen him perform in DC. I had an amazing time. So I called some friends and I was like, okay, let's go have some fun. So we got to the venue, we got to the event, and we're walking around, and I was thinking, okay, I want to get some food. And we decided, okay, the most easily thing that I could eat there was like Caribbean. So I was like, fine, let's get some jerk chicken. So the ironic part of the story was I got my food first, and then they were like, okay, the jerk chicken is not ready. It's going to be another 15 minutes. So we're standing there, and then it's like, okay, it's still not ready. There's something wrong with the jerk drum. It's going to be another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, cool. So at this point, I'm saying to my friends, okay, you know what? You guys go inside because I've seen Femi perform before. I don't mind missing the opening act. I'll come and join you.
Yeah.
I queued up for almost 2 hours waiting for this jerk chicken to be ready. And because I was already at the front of the queue and I'd invested all this time,
You
I
just
just
didn't
felt
want to
like
leave the queue.
I just didn't want to leave. so literally, yeah, that's how I did not see Femi perform. And I went home that same day and I Googled how to start a street food business. And I initially launched as T's Food Corner. And my first event was a festival called Africa Utopia that took place about 5-6 weeks later at the South Bank in London. And, I was doing like, some of the popular street food that I grew up eating in Nigeria. So like roasted corn, roasted plantain, suya, which is like a barbecued meat, meat pies. And, it was a great experience. And then, I did a couple of other markets. And then April last year, I decided to launch, started doing supper clubs and pop-up events. And that's when I then decided to change the business name to Tokunbos Kitchen.
Okay. So tell me about Oya Come Chop Supper Club.
Okay, so in Nigeria, we even though English is one of the formal languages, generally spoken in Nigeria is something called Pidgin English.
Yeah.
And in Pidgin English, Oya means it's time, and then chop is like to eat.
Okay.
So generally, when it's time to eat in Nigeria, somebody will say, "Oh yeah, let's go chop now,"
All
or "Oh
right.
yeah, chop."
Okay.
So it's kind of
Okay.
like it's an invitation. It's like
Mm-hmm.
saying, the food is ready. And then also in different parts of Nigeria, when you're like going around, you see this, open air bars and food places where they will say food is ready. So I kind of added the two together. So initially, when I started my supper club, I had it as food is ready, or yeah, come
Mm-hmm.
chops. Basically, inviting the world to come and eat at Tokunbos Kitchen, join the table, and have some amazing food, meet
Yeah.
new people, and have a great experience.
Okay. And the supper club itself, can you just explain a bit about that?
So a supper club is basically it's a cross between a dinner party and a
Mm-hmm.
pop-up restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so generally in my supper club, what I do is I would design a 3-4 course menu,
Mm-hmm.
and I would then put together a marketing campaign, which normally I would advertise on social media,
Yeah.
and people just buy tickets and they turn up, and
Mm-hmm.
you can turn up by yourself or you can come with friends. And the way my supper clubs are is I try to make it that you're not just coming for food.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cultural experience. You're coming to join a table of friends and family. So I've had people who came to the supper club, didn't know anybody, and at the end of the night they've made great friends that they're
Mm.
still in touch with.
Okay.
Um, and during the course of the night, I explain, the menu to you, the food that you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of give a little history about myself, about my culture, and
Mm-hmm.
tell you a little bit about Nigerian food and why we eat the food that I'm serving the way that it's traditionally eaten. If I've used traditional Nigerian ingredients into a different kind of meal, I'll explain that as well. So really
Mm-hmm.
giving what I really want people to take away from my event is to want to go home and try to cook Nigerian dishes for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, is there a special twist on your food, or is it exactly how you would make it at home?
The special twist is so Nigerian food, especially Nigerian food from Yoruba culture,
Mm-hmm.
which is where I'm from, my family are from, is notorious for being incredibly spicy.
Right. Okay.
Now, obviously, the average English person that does like the most spice they can eat is maybe a tikka masala,
Yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
different kind of spice.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I cook, so for example, one of the popular dishes in Nigeria and most West African countries is called jollof rice.
Mm-hmm.
And a typical jollof rice is expected to be spicy.
Yeah.
But because I want everybody to be able to eat jollof rice and enjoy jollof rice,
Mm-hmm.
so I take away the spice, but I still retain the flavors, the method of cooking. And in terms of like in Nigeria we call patty jollof rice because
Mm-hmm.
it's usually cooked over open firewood,
Yeah.
which gives it a smoky effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to recreate that in my jollof rice. So sometimes when I've done like street food events or festivals, I would get like, the odd Nigerian auntie that would come and be like, this jollof rice is not like Nigerian jollof rice. And I'll be like, Auntie, I'm sorry, but you're not my target audience. So, because I was very clear when I started that I'm not just targeting Nigerians or
Yeah.
Africans, I'm targeting the world.
Mm.
And, if I then have to adapt, so for example, one of my signature dish is a stew, I guess, called ayamashe.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's basically from the Yoruba land of Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
And again, traditionally, it's a very, very spicy stew. It's cooked with assorted meats, so like, intestines, cow food,
Mm-hmm.
all the lovely things that Africans enjoy, but the average Western palate would be like, this is too exotic for me.
Mm.
So I adapted the stew and I created my own concept of just using beef because beef is an easily recognizable cut of meat
Yeah.
that pretty much everybody who's a meat eater would recognize.
Yeah.
And again, I took away the spice, but even Nigerians who love ayamashe the way it's traditionally eaten would still come to my event and enjoy it because for them, the flavor's still there.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. And so you mentioned that the food is for everyone's palate. What
Yeah.
type of people do you have coming to the pop-up restaurants?
The pop-up restaurant, depending on if it's a supper club or if I'm doing a pop-up restaurant in a pub or in a wine bar, I
Mm.
get a cross range of people.
Yeah.
So, I did a pop-up a residency, which was basically I was at the pub
Mm-hmm.
2 nights a week
Yeah.
for a month, and it was
Mm-hmm.
a pub in East London where predominantly it was a working class white people that would come to the pub
Mm-hmm.
and they loved it. A lot of them I'd never seen like they'd seen plantain, but they'd always assumed it was a big banana. So it
Yes,
was
as
so
they
it's
do.
actually a great experience, to
Hmm.
be able to introduce plantain to them, introduce jollof rice to them,
Yeah,
fried yam chips, all the things that they probably walked past their local, super store on the corner and never thought to like, pick up or even
yeah,
buy or eat before.
yeah.
But then I do festivals at the South Bank, the Africa Utopia, and then a lot of people that would come to Africa Utopia are predominantly second, third generation young British African, Black British, Black Caribbeans who want to celebrate African culture. So I do get a mixed variety of people that come to my events, which again, like I said, for me it's really great because that has always been my objective.
Okay, good. So I'm talking to you, and you're actually in New York, and I'm
Yes.
guessing that's for New York African Restaurant Week.
Yes,
Is
it
that
is. I
correct?
am. I
You are.
am currently in New York. Yes, my
Okay.
favorite city in the world.
And is it New York African Restaurant Week this week?
So New York African Restaurant Week has actually expanded this year to become 3 weeks of activities and events.
Right.
So
Okay.
I came out about a week and a half ago,
Mhm.
and the first event I did was the mega food festival that took place in Brooklyn
Mhm.
2 weeks ago, and that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And then over the last 2 weeks, there's been a series of different activities and chef-hosted events.
Mhm.
One of the events I was really excited to have been a part of was a five-course dinner that was held at a foundation called the James Beard
Mhm.
Foundation here in New York, in Manhattan.
Okay.
And, it's literally one of the most prestigious culinary institutions here in the United States. And this was the first time they had a group of, African chefs from different parts
Okay.
of Africa create an African-inspired menu called Odyssey across Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And which was an event that was sold to members and non-members, and tickets sold out within 2 weeks.
Mm.
So that in itself tells you that there is an appetite for people are interested in learning about food from Africa, African cuisine. And it was a great experience because I was working with really inspiring and amazing renowned chefs. I mean, I actually tweeted about it because prior to coming, it just felt like this was something I would never have considered
Yeah.
initially when I started. I'm
Yeah.
an home trained chef.
Mhm.
I'm still learning. There's a lot of things I'm still learning as I'm going along. So
Mhm.
to be able to work with, chefs who have 2, 3 restaurants, who have over 20, 30 years experience in the field. One of the chefs, his name's Chef Pierre Chiam
Mhm.
from Senegal. He just recently had a TED talk.
Yeah.
So to be able to work with someone like that was like, wow, this is amazing. This is
Yes.
really, really amazing. And the response to the food was fantastic. So yeah, it's been an amazing time. And this coming Sunday, I will actually be hosting my own event, A Taste of Nigeria,
Mhm.
cookout in Brooklyn on Sunday. So I'm really excited about that as well.
Okay. That sounds really exciting. And it sounds
Yes.
like a brilliant experience.
It has been, and just being able to meet with other chefs from different parts of Africa, and
Mhm.
learning about what they're doing, and hopefully, because looking to create something similar in London,
Yeah.
and just yeah, because for me, I think African food, food from Africa, food from West Africa, food from Nigeria in particular is amazing. Just
Yes.
yesterday on CNN, Anthony Bourdain.
Mhm.
I'd actually gone to Lagos a few months ago, and I knew about it because one of my friends in Lagos, who's a food blogger, was one of the ladies featured in the program, and it
Mm.
was shown here in the United States last night on CNN, and it was just fantastic to see somebody like Anthony Bourdain in Nigeria eating pounded yam with his hand and egusi, like my favorite dish, and seeing non-Africans watching that and
Yeah.
being curious about, oh,
Yeah.
okay, what is Nigerian food, and actually maybe checking out some of the recipes that they're posting from the program. That is, yeah, really, it's an exciting time to be an African chef right
Mm.
now.
And would you say that African food is sold more widely in New York than it is in London at the moment?
Oh no, the opposite. I would
The opposite.
say, yeah, I would say New York is so much bigger than London,
Yeah.
first of all.
Hmm.
I think, even so for example, I went to get some food, mac and cheese,
Hmm.
in Brooklyn, and I got talking to the owner, and, he was like, I was saying to him about some of the Senegalese food I'd been eating.
Yeah.
And, the Senegalese restaurant is just a couple blocks from his restaurant. And he said to me, or, he's always gone past it, but because of the way it looked, and he just always felt like it wasn't welcomed, that it
Oh,
was
okay.
and that's the experience that I think a lot of people get from African restaurants.
Hmm.
African restaurants tend to market themselves only to their
Yeah.
communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, in London, definitely it's a lot more accessible. And I think, there's a lot of, people in the African food pop-up scene who are doing a great job marketing, food from different parts of the region
Hmm.
to a more wider audience in London. And I think Londoners are now they're more, an average Londoner would have heard of jollof rice,
Yes.
even if they've
Yes.
never tasted it.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York, it's still kind of like, oh, what is
What's
Nigerian
that?
food?
Yes.
Yeah, never even heard of jollof rice.
Yeah, so if any of the listeners want to taste your food, when will Tokunbo's Kitchen be popping up in London next? Or, sorry, in London, England?
Okay, so Tokunbos Kitchen will be having one final pop-up I'm still planning the date, but it's
Hmm.
looking to be the first weekend of December.
Okay.
And we'll be doing a whole day of, lunch and dinner, playing on the Nigerian Christmas party kind of theme.
Okay.
We also do catering. So
Hmm.
if you are looking to have somebody, an intimate dinner or a wedding or a celebration or just a Christmas party and you don't want to have the hassle of doing the cooking, you can contact us and we can help you create a menu and, um, delight your guests with Nigerian food if it's something that they're used to or even if they're not used to it. And yeah, so that's what we're going to be looking to do this year. And
Yeah.
then next year, we'll be looking to do a lot more activities.
Is there any plan to have a standalone restaurant at any point?
I'm leaning more and more towards that now.
Hmm.
I think for me, previously, because like I said, because I'm not, I'm an accidental chef
Yep.
in a
Okay.
way.
Excellent.
I never, I never thought I would ever end up in cooking. In
Yeah.
fact, my friends and family still find it quite funny that I do food business. But in the last couple of years, just based on the feedback and the responses, and just seeing that there is a market for
Yeah.
what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and yeah, so for example, I'm back when I get back to London, I'm going to be a speaker at a food and drinks event
Hmm.
in Shoreditch Town Hall, talking to people in the industry about why food from West Africa is a trend to get involved with.
Okay.
So I think definitely, you know, I'm now getting to like, okay, let me look into like what is involved in running a restaurant, and hopefully in the next year or so, Tokunbos Kitchen will have a permanent space.
Hmm.
There will be a permanent space for Tokunbos Kitchen in the next year or so.
That's good to hear. And just before I go, I understand one of your goals is to turn Nigerian cuisine into one of the favourites on the London food landscape.
Yes.
It's also your goal to feed John Boyega and Anthony Joshua,
Yes.
who are both British
Yes.
Nigerians. Well,
Yes.
we never know who's listening. Maybe they'll be a friend of a friend, and maybe you'll get to feed them
Yes.
one day. Who knows?
Yes, I'm very excited because you know what? One thing I've learned about Nigerians is all it takes is we all just one degree of separation. I mentioned those two because not only are they amazing role models in
Hmm.
terms of in their individual career
Yeah.
spaces, I love that they champion Nigerian food. So
Yes.
I'll wake up and John Boyega will be tweeting, go on his Instagram. It's like, I feel like eating pounded yam today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's amazing. He's proudly Nigerian. And Anthony Joshua again, Snapchatting himself eating his pounded yam.
Mm.
So for me, I love pounded yam. Pounded yam is my favorite food in the world. With egusi or okra stew. So I'm like, hey boys, let's get together and eat some pounded yam together. Trust
Yes.
me, you are fun. So yeah, anybody out there that's listening, if you know John or you know Anthony or you know both of them, let's make it happen. I've been
Yes.
putting it out there to the universe for quite a few years now, and I know 2018 is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
We'll
I,
try and make
I'm
it
just
happen.
preparing myself. I'm just preparing myself. I already know it's going to happen. So
Yeah. We'll see what we can
thank
do.
you.
Do you have a website where people can find out a bit more about you and Tokunbo's Kitchen?
Yes, so my website is just www.tokunboskitchen, and that's Tokunboskitchen and .com. Best way to kind of connect with me, but I'm also very active on social media. So on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook at Tokunbos Kitchen, all one word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Tokunbo, thanks for your time today
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
and enjoy the rest of New York African Restaurant 3 weeks.
Yes, I will do.
All right.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a mouthful than African Restaurant Week, isn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
A
Thank you
little bit.
so much, Ryan.
Thanks for your time.
Take care.